Hello YouTube! Hi guys, this is an expected video, and this is it. We're explaining the Godzilla Imposter timeline, which is actually going to be very difficult. So, let's get things out of the way. OC Wars is by D. Kaiser, the YouTuber D. Kaiser, shout out to you. It's canon to GXI, we have OC Wars, Godzilla's vs. Godzilla, GXD, which is Godzilla's Destroyer, and Godzilla Vengeance. But there's really mainly three that are the two that the two that correspond with Godzilla's Imposter, OC Wars, and the Godzilla Vengeance and Central Verse are just OC Battle Royale, which is kind of similar to OC Wars. So let's pull it out and let's get to work. Alright guys, now we can start. So the first thing that chronologically happens is Godzilla vs. Destroyer, which is the first film. Yes, there's going to be a Godzilla Origins, which will push this thing back, but Godzilla vs. Destroyer is chronologically the first film in the GXI timeline. Then you have Godzilla the Imposter Part 2, which is the second film in the Godzilla the Imposter timeline, which are just Godzilla the Imposter, which we can call it. Then Godzilla the Imposter Part 2 or Godzilla the Imposter Part 3, which is when we first see evolved Godzilla. Now, each of these takes place like in a day of each other. You could say Godzilla vs. Destroyer actually takes place a couple years before the first Godzilla the Imposter Part 1. Because it is the same Godzilla design. It kind of be like the 21 Godzilla and 2027 Godzilla from GXK. Like, same design, but like there's been time that passed by. That's why Godzilla does have like different like abilities and all. A lot of stuff happens between that, but Godzilla the Imposter Part 3 happens right after Part 2. And then at the very end of Part 3 we get to Godzilla the Imposter Welcome to Hell Part 1. But is that really where it starts? Because we have two problems. This will make the continuity of this very difficult. You have Godzilla, you have the OC trio, Godzilla, Vengeance Godzilla, GXI Godzilla versus the DC universe, or just the DC characters, which was supposed to happen, but has been delayed. I have no idea what happened to it. But yeah, and you also have OC War. So chronologically, I think that since Welcome to Hell Godzilla does go into a portal at the very beginning of this, which could just be a part of Part 3. So after Part 3 or just Part 4 of the entire series, you see Godzilla roar after killing Godzilla go into a portal. Who knows? The portal actually could have taken him to the Vengeance versus timeline, or this timeline, Godzilla versus the OC trio versus DC, and those events happen. And after that, they would obviously part their separate ways. And then Godzilla would obviously go into another portal, which could lead him into OC Wars, where he'd have a completely different design. This actually makes it sound a lot better, because then it makes more sense when Godzilla goes into Hell Godzilla's first. OC Wars taking the span of multiple weeks, so that would make that different. And since that, Godzilla would have gotten a lot more powerful. And that actually makes sense, because the reason why it looks weird on the timeline, because it takes place before the main events of Godzilla, GXI Godzilla vs. Hell Godzilla. But it's still in that timeline. It's still like in between there. It doesn't take place after, but it kind of takes place before the main events. So, yes. After that, then you have Godzilla X the Imposter. I believe it's Part 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Part 6. Yeah. Then, right after that, Godzilla X the Imposter Part 7. Godzilla X the Imposter Part 8. Godzilla X the Imposter Part 9 takes place right after. Then, this is where a big chunk of this gets in. But this is where things also kind of get confusing. You have the OC Battle Royales. I've played into like one thing, not playing like 1, 2, 3, and 4. It's all put into one condition. So what could have happened after that? Godzilla actually destroys everything, right? He kills the omniversal gods, and he's still in there, in the void, or like this white space of reality. What could have happened is the true form of omniversal god, or the mock true form of omniversal god, opens a portal and takes him to the OC Wars. And this would actually make a lot more sense because in OC Wars you see Godzilla using his Kaiser beam and his red spiral beam, which means it couldn't take place before episode 8 because, or even it couldn't take place even after episode 8 because how would he have his Kaiser beam? Because it wouldn't be like, because the first time we see the beams are in their respective episodes, so that would make sense that he gets teleported to the OC Battle Royale. It would make sense that it's either Ultima and the Omniversal God's true form teleporting these characters in. And so every part of OC Battle Royale from Centroverse takes place in this time. This is the same GXI Godzilla, the same Massive, and the same Vengeance Godzilla, but all fighting. Since there was like a kind of like a mutual agreement in Godzilla in the OC trio. And also in OC Wars, obviously, I guess the agreement was broken and Godzilla decided to fight whatchamacallit? Massive, which were actually allies before, but then they fought. And then Godzilla and Vengeance Godzilla would realize their power levels and try to fight to see who's stronger Godzilla. And this would actually make more sense because that's why because GXI did technically win. You could leave it as Vengeance Godzilla having the advantage in the last episode of part 3 of the OC Battle Royale. Also, we see the Omniversal God in it, so that's a little bizarre. The true form of Omniversal God. Is this? Yes. This is the true form of Omniversal God's first appearance, but is it his first canon appearance? Because his first canon appearance would be in Godzilla Imposter Part 10. But it could make sense seeing him slightly earlier than his appearance. Or what you could say is that you could push that event back a little bit into the finale, but then the finale you have a whole new form, which OC Wars or OC Battle Royale Part 4 or 5 will probably have True Comp burning Godzilla, and that should take place like after. But then again, he'd be in his new evolved form, so that wouldn't work. And that's where things get kind of iffy. And then, after OC Battle Royale, the conclusion of Part 4, you get into Godzilla X Imposter, the finale, Part 10 of Season 1. And after that, you have into our next scheduled events. Godzilla X Imposter versus... or Godzilla X Imposter versus Godzilla X Ava. Versus Godzilla X Imposter versus Godzilla versus Ava Godzilla. Or Godzilla X Ava. So you have a crossover event. And after that, you have Godzilla versus Bacon. And after that, you would have Godzilla versus Space Godzilla. And then you have Godzilla versus Destroy the series, which each should be 5 episodes, 2 seasons. So you'd have Part 1, Part 2. And then, who knows what will come after that. But right now, so I think when OC Wars, OC Battle Royale ends, it should be about in the, right before the Godzilla X Imposter versus Godzilla X Ava fight. That's where it should start, right before. So, this timeline actually comes out to be very weird, because, like, the other people's events and, like, the crossover events that me, Central versus Masilla, that made canon, or just Mason for short, since it's a new channel, we made it canon to each other, so it just makes it weird. Like, the OC Battle Royale and the OC Wars are all canon, so it just makes the continuity weird. But if you don't want to consider them as canon, then you still can separate them, all 3 of them, from the main GXI timeline. But you could put it in there as completely canon. It can work, in the main GXI timeline, it just makes things a little confusing. Because then you have to go into like iffy, like solid canon, other scenarios on like how this event would happen, what time period. Because we all know that the last appearance GXI Godzilla made in like canon is Godzilla X the Imposter, the finale. That would be the literal last appearance we see him. That's his final appearance, and like you can't say anything about that. That's just how it goes. Now, what you can say is, even though it would make it weird, you can still add all my other collabs into it. So if you guys want a part 2 on this, just tell me in the comments. I hope you liked the video. Peace. Shout out to D Kaiser, Centroverse, our Warblast Omega, and Masilla, aka Mason, for basically allowing me to have and everyone else to have all our stuff in a canon timeline. This is really cool. And don't forget Luca for his GXD, Godzilla Destroyer canon timeline. Once he's able to make films and videos, or have the comics on YouTube, then it's going to be easier to tell how it fits in, because this is difficult because the canon part. But just thanks to everyone, and I hope everyone has a good night or day whenever this comes out. Peace.